Hey everyone, welcome back. You're here, I bet, because the 79th group thing has really caught your attention.
Yeah, definitely been making headlines.
And maybe has you a little on edge too, right? All this talk of fraud. It's not exactly something you just brush off.
No, not at all. And it's a story that just keeps unfolding. More layers keep getting peeled back.
Exactly, and that's why we have you here today. You've been following this 79th group long before it hit the mainstream news. What's the real deal here? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, the first thing to remember is it's not every day that you see authorities actually stepping in, making arrests, seizing assets from a company that, at least on the surface, seemed to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's not just some minor regulatory slap on the wrist, right? This is a full-on investigation.
Exactly. It's a big deal. And there are some potentially serious consequences that could come out of this.
Okay, so some major red flags were obviously waving around, but for those of us who maybe haven't been, glued to every financial news update, let's take a step back for a second. What exactly was the 79th group? What were they offering that got people so interested in the first place?
So they were really pushing these loan note products, which basically means you're lending money to the company in exchange for getting a fixed return on that investment.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the returns they were promising, well, let's just say they were pretty eye-catching, even for investors who've seen it all.
Ah, the lure of those big profits. But I guess that's where things start to get a little iffy. You mentioned authorities taking action. What exactly triggered those investigations and those arrests?
Things really took a dramatic turn when 4 individuals connected to the 79th group were arrested. And on top of that, they seized assets at something like 5 different properties.
Wow.
That's not just routine regulatory stuff. That's a sign that authorities believe something pretty serious has been going down.
So you're saying they wouldn't make such a bold move unless they had some pretty strong evidence already?
Exactly. It seems they've been building a case for a while now.
And you've been watching this company for a while, even before all of this recent drama unfolded. Were there any warning signs early on? What were the red flags that caught your eye?
Oh, there were definitely some red flags. 3 big ones, actually.
Yeah.
First, those sky-high returns they were promising. Anytime you see investment returns that seem way too good to be true, well, they probably are. It's a huge red flag.
Makes sense. I mean, it's like trying to cheat the system, right? Something has to give.
Right. The second red flag was this security trustee called Castle Trust and Management Services Limited, and this one has since gone into liquidation.
Okay.
Now a security trustee is supposed to act as an independent overseer, basically protecting the interests of the investors.
Right, so it's like a safeguard?
Right. Exactly. So when that trustee goes under, it raises some serious questions about how the whole operation was being run and whether it was legitimate at all.
Yeah.
It's like if you found out the security guard at a bank was actually part of the heist.
Yeah, that analogy really hits home. It makes you wonder how much scrutiny there really was.
Absolutely. And then the third red flag, and this one really got my attention, were reports that the 79th group was using these overseas boiler rooms.
Boiler rooms, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, they can be.
Yeah.
Basically, they're high-pressure sales operations, often operating in countries with weaker regulations, and they use really aggressive tactics to push investments, sometimes targeting vulnerable individuals.
So not exactly the image of a trustworthy ethical investment firm.
Not even close.
Hmm.
All of these red flags taken together started pointing towards a very disturbing possibility, a Ponzi scheme.
Wait, a Ponzi scheme? That's a whole different ballgame. Now, for those of us who might not be familiar with that term, can you break down exactly what a Ponzi scheme is and why it's so dangerous?
Of course, a Ponzi scheme is like a financial house of cards, where the appearance of success is built on really shaky foundations. Basically, early investors get paid returns not from actual profits, but from the money that's coming in from new investors.
So it's basically robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly, and it's a system that's designed to fail eventually, because at some point you run out of new investors, the money dries up, and the whole thing collapses, leaving a lot of people with devastating losses.
Okay, so we've got this potential Ponzi scheme, a company that might be built on some very shaky ground, and authorities taking some pretty drastic action. But who are the people behind all of this? Who are the faces of the 79th group?
Well, the key players here are David Webster, his sons Jake and Curtis, and then the CEO, a woman named Natalie Bellis. Now, they presented themselves, with a very carefully crafted image. It was all about family values, trust, loyalty. That kind of we're a family business approach can be incredibly effective, especially in making people feel like they're dealing with someone they can trust.
Right, it gives that sense of shared values, like you're part of something bigger than just a financial transaction.
Exactly, and that's what makes this whole situation even more unsettling.
Right.
Because if these allegations are true, then that carefully crafted image was just a facade,
Mm.
a way to gain the trust of unsuspecting investors and pull them into what might turn out to be a disastrous scheme.